From the early days of the Atari and Pac-Man to the Nintendo Entertainment System, to the next-gen PlayStation 3, video games have become a dominant entity for family enjoyment by combining their new high-def format, the Blu-ray, with hopes of burying the competition.
So I can play the games, you know, and there's also the possibility that if I get the lower one, that I could sell it or something and get one later on down the road. I'm a PlayStation diehard.
I've been here since Wednesday morning, actually, at about 7 o'clock in the morning. Waited out here. They weren't open. Nobody in line. This was the only place to come down to, you know, Walmart. You know, come here at your own risk. You know, they've had you know, shootings here, so you know, bad things happen sometimes. You know, hey, at your own risk. Have a good time.
Last night around 9 o'clock, there was probably 140 people in this parking lot. And there was the group that originally started and then another group that formed that was about 30 or 40 people. And those people were really getting irate and yelling, hell no, we won't go. And so right at the door and banging on the glass. There was actually 4 police cars here last night. Yeah, 4 of the 6 that were on patrol last night. So yeah,
the police, they say, oh,
stop, go away.
The demand for these next-generation systems is insanely high, and with only so many units, people are desperate to be the proud few to own the PlayStation 3 this season.
Everyone is like plotting against each other. It's like Lord of the Flies, except for there's no one wearing glasses for fire. There's no big cliff. There's no big cliff to drop a rock on Piggy, and nobody has the conch.
Video game expert Tor Erickson had this to say.
Obsessed? Yes, we're obsessed. There are several things out there nowadays that, you know, when you almost have to like get your coffee fix or something like that. And I think video games in a way is that too, where people need to shoot guns and play their fake guitars and be the first on their block to be the best out there. I think a lot of it is the fact you can make a quick buck, but I also know there's a lot of kids that, you know, have to have the, you know, the most current technology out there, especially with the buzz that the media puts on these items. The fact that they push so hard for these launch dates, you know, people have been planning for these 6 months in advance. And let's face it, technology is good right now.
The system is set to be unleashed to the public on Friday the 17th, and people have already started to camp out 2 full days beforehand. People who fail to make the list could be forced to pay up to $10,000 on eBay if they can't wait.
I'm here to play games, and I'm here to flip it on eBay, make 3 G's, and be that. Sit here just, you know, for 2 days, just to sit and play a game, to me is an idiot.
All I can say is that I will sacrifice my life for a PlayStation 3. You know why? Because I have heart. I show true colors.
That's right.
Yeah. That guy, seriously, I don't know, every single time I talk to him, I think we talk for about 2 minutes, and the site's telling me that he's number 1 8 times. I don't know what else he talks about. It's just meaningless. It's just nonsense.
Just for the positive experience that this has been. This has really, really been a good time. There's people that are here that just came out to hang out with us. Just because, why not?
Try and buy one off one of these guys coming out of the store right now. $1,500, $1,600 is what I'm willing to pay. The regular price is like $500 or $600 though. But tomorrow I won't care. You know, it's just one of those things where it's out now and that's that. Tomorrow it'll be like not that big of a deal. You missed the boat, oh well.
On the day of launch, only 400,000 people ended the ordeal victorious. Everyone else was left behind, forced to wait as long as March of 2007. But to those few who got the treasure they so longed for are the proud few to say they were first.
8 to 12 systems for a line of 100 people for a system succeeding the PlayStation 2. So I've told this story before, but I thought it would be great to tell it at greater length because it was such an interesting time. When the PlayStation 3 came out November 17, 2006 in North America, it was kind of a really big deal for a number of reasons. I mean, this was a system succeeding the PlayStation 2. The PlayStation 2 is the most successful system of all time. And the PS3 was a $500 to $600 system with a Blu-ray player, you know, the cell processor, which Sony was trying to make a lot of buzz about, but more importantly, it was also well known that Sony's manufacturing efforts were not up to par. So there wasn't that many systems getting shipped to North America. If I remember correctly, it was around 400,000 some odd systems for all of the territory. You know, so also this was around the time that they formally announced the system was going to be delayed in Europe. So people in Europe were also going to have to wait until March to get their system. But what was crazy about the launch of the PlayStation 3 is you had a situation where a lot of stores were getting such small allocations for systems. So you would have, like, honestly, on a good store, 20 to 30 systems was what they would get, which seems pretty good, but a lot of stores, a majority of stores, in major cities, mind you, would get 8 to 12 systems for a line of 100 people for a system succeeding the PlayStation 2. So this is a story about how I got to launch PlayStation 3 when people were dying over it, because that's another part of this story, is that if you don't remember back then, there was a lot of violence around the time the PS3 was coming out. Partly because it was in such big demand and people knew it was going to be very tough to get their hands on the system. So a number of stories where a man did end up getting shot over the system. I don't know if he died. I think he did die. And then there was a situation of 60 campers fighting over a small allocation of units, and I think a fight broke out. There was another one of a drive-by shooting, not with real guns, but BB guns. But that's funny. I think that's just them harassing people. And then another one where campers got robbed at gunpoint, because this is a bunch of people standing around with for sure at least $600 in their pocket.
So many people waited in line for only 16 units. That's how many were available.
In Connecticut, one man was shot by 2 armed robbers trying to hold up a line of people waiting to get the video game outside a Walmart.
With BBs from a car driving by the scene.
I need the first 34 individuals to line up behind that gentleman.
And I was younger at the time, so this is when I was still in school. I was still living at home. And I knew this was going to be a thing where I'm like, okay, I have to camp for like well over a day to get a system, and I really wanted one. So you'd have to make the plea with the parents, right? Of like, okay, listen, I'm gonna go do this, and I was told no, there's no way you're doing that. You're not staying outside, especially with that much money, because I didn't have a credit card or anything. You'd have to sit there with all that money in your pocket. Maybe you could not have it in your pocket and have somebody come drop it up. You know, the point is I was a young kid and it was a no-go for my parents. I was totally bummed, because that also meant that I was definitely not going to get a system for a long time, because manufacturing was not very good at the time. Sony wasn't making a whole lot of systems, and it took them a while to get production really kick-started. And so that was like kind of a bummer, but you know, whatever. I was able to secure a Wii pre-order. I was still playing my Xbox 360 at the time, so I had games to play. I had stuff to do, and so the system comes out. I don't get one, obviously. I start to see those eBay prices where people are selling their PlayStation 3s on eBay for well over what they paid, upwards of $2,000 to $3,000. I think one actually sold for $10,000, which is nuts. Although I think if I did get one on launch day, I still wouldn't have sold it. Although I still could have sold it at the time I got one. But anyway, this is about early December now. And I'm in school, and something's like in my eye. I don't know what it is. My eye's just getting irritated, so I'm rubbing it and rubbing it. Teacher asks me if I'm okay. I said, yeah, I'm fine. But I'm still I'm still rubbing my eye like crazy, and I starts to water, my eyes red, and she's like, you need to go to the nurse. It's like, all right. So I go to the nurse, and I'm running my eye out with water, and it's not getting any better, and I'm just like, oh, this sucks. And so the nurse is like, well, you know, if this is clearly bothering you, you need to just go home or go to a hospital or something and really get this figured out. So my grandfather comes, picks me up from school, takes me home. I don't know, it's like maybe 11 a.m. It's still bothering me, by the way, so I said, screw it, I'll take a nap. So I went to sleep thinking, alright, well, this sucks, but my eyes are closed, it's not going to hurt. I take maybe a 2-hour nap, I wake up, my eye's fine. So whatever was stuck in my eye, it just rolled back into my head or whatever, but I was fine. And so now I make my daily rounds of phone calls, which is what I was doing. I was calling a lot of stores, basically asking, do you know when you're getting PS3s? Do you have a PS3? Or this, that, and, you know, I was the typical consumer trying to get my hands on a system. And this is early December, mind you. I don't remember the exact day, but maybe like December, anywhere from December 1st to like the 10th. I call my local GameStop. We have 2 GameStops in the area, but there's one I always go to. I was calling both, but the one I always go to, I called them. I said, do you have any PS3s? They said, yeah, we got one right now. I said, what? And he said it so nonchalant, like it, almost like it wasn't really a big deal. So yeah, we got a 60 gigabyte in stock right now. I said, all right, can you hold it for me? They're like, well, we can't really do that, but we have it. I said, oh my God. I hung up the phone. I run downstairs and I look at my grandfather. My grandfather was the kind of guy who, because at the time I obviously didn't drive. My grandfather was the kind of guy who you'd ask him to do something, like take you somewhere. And he'd say, yeah, but then you'd wait an hour and a half to get there because he just wouldn't be ready. So I looked at him, I said, listen, don't screw with me on this. They got one. We have to go right now. He was sitting at the kitchen table at the time, too. I remember this so vividly. I'm like, we gotta go now. You can't do this to me right now. We gotta go now. I got him to leave in 5 minutes, which is pretty impressive. I'll give him some points for that. But sure enough, we get there, and I said, do you still have the system? They said, oh yeah, we still got it. So he goes in back, I'm like, oh my God, yes. Thank you. Brings that bad boy out, sets it on the table, and on the bottom right or bottom left of the system, I don't remember where, but it had that famous sticker. That sticker that says, Talladega Nights with Ricky Bobby on Blu-ray included. So if you don't remember, a launch PS3 came with a free Blu-ray copy of Talladega Nights on Blu-ray. That was basically the dead giveaway right there, that this was a launch system. This was not one shipped after the fact on the 2nd or 3rd shipment or something like that. This was obviously a system they got day one, and it hadn't been sold. Or maybe, you know, so I don't know the story behind the system. And in all honesty, I kind of regret not asking the store clerk, like, why is this system still here? But I just paid my money and I got the hell out of there. But I really would have loved to ask, like, what was the story behind this system? Because obviously this system either like was allocated to somebody and wasn't picked up in time, or it was like just recently released after, and what I mean by release is like somebody had pre-ordered it but they never came for the system, so it was like released in the fact of like, okay, now we can just sell it to anybody, to the first person that comes through the door. Or maybe it was like a system moved around between stores or something like that. I honestly don't know. Or maybe there was a second shipment that did have Talladega Nights on Blu-ray, but again, I don't know. But I'm quite confident it was a launch system, which it was 60 gigabyte with Ricky Bobby. And that's how I got my launch PlayStation 3, on a total fluke, more or less. Because I didn't even get it on launch day, you know, but it was a launch system. And that's how I got it, and I was super excited. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. What's funny is that I only had enough money just for the system, so I did not have a single game with it. So all I did was took it home, unboxed it, did not sell it, mind you, made a PlayStation Network account, went to the PlayStation Store, and just downloaded a bunch of demos. And in fact, also at that time, PS3 did not have background downloading, so if you wanted to download something, you hit download, and then you just sat there and waited for it to finish. The system couldn't do anything else except let that download finish. If you wanted to leave it, you had to cancel that download. So, and I didn't like download the first thing and play it right away. I wanted to like just queue up a bunch of downloads. So my first day of owning the system, was a very exciting time of me leaving school early, bringing it home, and downloading a bunch of demos until midnight, and I went to sleep and I never played it once. My Wii launch story wasn't nearly as exciting because the Wii came out literally 2 days after the PS3, November 19th, and I was able to get my pre-order. I went, picked up my Wii, picked up some games with it, and brought it home and played it, and had a good time. Nothing really exciting there, but that's it. So thank you all for listening to my gaming story. If you have any launch stories that you would like to share, please by all means write them in the comments because I would love